This is John Albertine from Cape Coral, Florida. John Albertine served on board the Battleship New Jersey as a Marine with the ship's Marine Detachment from 1984 to 1986. Welcome home, Mr. Albertine.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You don't mind me asking to remove your hat, please? All right. Thank you. It's better lighting. So, what is your current age, Mr. Albertine?
I am 53.
And when did you enlist in the Marine Corps?
1991. Actually, 1990 delayed entry.
You said 19... What was it again? Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. 1982.
1982? Okay. And how old were you when you joined the Marine Corps?
18.
18. And where'd you go for boot camp?
Paris Island. I was platoon 3069.
Okay. And what was your inspiration for joining the Marine Corps?
Several. Well, we come from a long military family. My family served mostly Navy since day one of the Navy. I'm actually, let's see, the first Marine in my family. That was my inspiration. It's to be the best.
Oh, okay. So did you just go to a recruiter?
Went to the local recruiter in town. I had to one-up my dad. My dad was a career Navy. So the Marine Corps is just a one-up.
Okay, I see. Any stories you'd like to share in Paris Island?
I can't think of any stories. Paris Island was just plain brutal.
Anything that stand out?
Funny story, I do remember missing the rope on the confidence course and taking the fall straight down and had sand kicked on me and asked me if I was hurt or injured. And that being, if I was hurt, I'm going to get up and keep training. If I'm injured, they're going to bury me on the spot.
Oh, yeah. Now, that was basic, correct?
Correct.
So after that, does the Marine Corps call it A school?
After that, I got shipped to the West Coast to, at the time it was called Infantry Training School in Camp Pendleton, California. From there, went to C School in San Diego, and from C School in San Diego, we flew to the New Jersey in Beirut.
Right. Anything you remember from those schools?
Infantry Training School, I remember the hills. Mount Mother sits right outside San Onofre. You know, of course, me being an East Coast Marine, not used to the hills and the mountains. The hills there was a definite challenge, even though I grew up in the Adirondacks. C School, that was an entirely different world. It was not field, it was all spit and polish. And then from there it was the long airline flights to the Med.
Okay. So how did basic compare to those schools?
Basic was not knowing anything.
Okay.
Once you get to infantry training school, you know, the training tempo doesn't change, except, you know, I don't have someone screaming at me every day. So you're learning more. It's not the same as a drill instructor. You are doing stuff and learning.
Yeah. So basically it's like baptism by fire.
Yeah, it's still a rude shock. Every time you pick up and move and see bag drag, it's a rude shock to the system. Your first 6 months in the military, we're moving constantly.
Okay. All right. So after A school, and it was B school, correct? C school.
No, C school, SEA school.
Okay. So
Sea Duty Indoctrination course, I guess is what it was.
Okay. So after those, you went to the New Jersey, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So what year was this?
This was January 1984. Right after Christmas, we flew.
Okay.
Dover, Madrid, Spain, Madrid to Rota, Rota to Sigonella, Sigonella to Larnaca, Cyprus.
Right. So then you arrived in New Jersey, correct?
And then we flew to New Jersey via helicopter.
All right. So it was in the Mediterranean.
That's correct, Eastern Med.
Okay. So what was your first impressions when you saw the ship?
First impression of the ship, it was huge. I mean, looking at it from the port of the helicopter, we did a 360 on the ship, bigger than any other ship that was sitting out there.
Okay. So you were assigned for the Marine Detachment, correct?
Yes, it was.
So your job was security?
Our job was general ship security and occasionally ceremonial duties, offshore naval gunfire duties.
Okay. The ship had a Navy Master at Arms, correct?
Navy Master Arms, correct.
Did you both do security jobs?
We worked out of the same office. Master at Arms had one side, and we had the other. But we were more tasked for more ship security than the Master at Arms.
Right. But a lot of your duties kind of overlapped, did
We
they?
kind of overlapped.
Okay. Any friendly rivalry between you and them?
No, not with the Master at Arms. We did have, we had some fun. You know, when I had my times up in the guard shack as Corporal de Guard, this is back in the day before TV remotes ever existed. We had a long 3-foot, 4-foot wooden pole with a notch cut in the end to it so we could turn the channels. It was called doohickey. Usually the Master at Arms had it. We just had to take it. And that's how we watch TV.
Okay. But you did security work like separately, correct?
Yes, the separate security work. Yeah, Master at Arms, they just walked the decks. We did physical security. I mean, we were actually armed.
Okay. So what were the small arms you had?
Small arms we had at the time, we still had the M16A1, and we had the M1911. We had M60 machine guns and M2HB Brownings and M1911 pistol.
Okay.
So as weapons-wise, we were a little behind the fleet.
Okay. So did the others have different weapons at the time?
Sure, the M16A2 was already coming into service, but ship's attachments, we were still carrying the A1.
Okay, I see. Okay. So describe your duties on board. Anything that stands out to you?
Our typical duty day, depending on the shift, we stood either on in port on the quarterdeck, plus post 1 at the end of Broadway, or Corporal de Guard up in the Master at Arms shack. Post 1 was a physical 4-hour stationary post. The Corporal de Guard was a roving post, and at sometimes we had a roving patrol. And that was 4 on, 8 off on your duty days. A non-duty day was just any kind of training that needed to be. Morning PT runs or PT runs on the flight deck, and then classroom trainings, weapons maintenance.
Okay. Now, these were also your general quarter stations, correct?
General quarter stations was in the 5-inch gun mount, Mount 5.5.
Okay. So what was general quarters like?
General quarters, after the first few in Beirut, which were, again, rude shocks to the system, because, hey, this is real, but general quarters was like any other drill. It's moved from the berthing to the gun mount.
Do you remember?
More or less, once you're in the mount, it's still hurry up and wait. The more upbeat drills are the drills that were more real to us were the rappel border drills, and we did them at port sides. Those are usually depending on who ran the drill and who called the drill, or called an actual drill for an actual event. Those got hairy because a lot of times sailors just didn't take us quite seriously enough.
Do you remember how much time you had to get general quarters?
General quarters, I know the standard was 2 minutes to zebra. I think that's what it was called, but Yeah, we had 2 minutes to get to our mount and get it up.
Was
2
this
minutes.
was this how it was like for the rest of the crew? 2 minutes?
Something like that. I don't know the exact standards for it, but we were supposed to be in our mount in 2 minutes and fired up, ready to go. And we could generally keep that going.
Okay. All right. So you got on board the New Jersey, and the ship was on its way to the Beirut crisis, correct?
Actually, she was already sitting off the coast doing circles. We were already on the gun line.
Oh, okay. So did you arrive before or after the barracks bombing?
We arrived just after the barracks bombing.
Okay. Do you remember the mood within the crew?
The crew. I don't really recall the mood of the crew. I know the mood of the Corps at the time of the BLT bombings, because it happened while we were en route, and that was a tough nut to take.
Okay. Do you remember like reading the news about it, like how it was described?
Yeah. Yeah, we remember the news, and it was at the time that. And I know the rules changed right after that, but the guys that were on security, and I remember being previous to this, doing security guard duties out of Ameshish and Supply Point, Camp Pendleton, with a magazine with 3 rounds and a piece of tape over top of it. Safety. And that was similar to what was in Beirut. Nothing was loaded.
Yeah, I was told about that by another Marine, saying that Marines had to have either no ammunition or a limited amount of ammunition in magazines while doing this guard work.
Yes, I had friends that were on the beach. Mark Jerome was on the beach at the time, and he was telling me that they had ammunition, but they weren't allowed to load, or they had 1 magazine and weren't allowed to load.
Yeah, they believe this is the reason why that truck bombing was so successful, because there was almost no resistance.
Because we were still a peacetime military service, and I think that was a shock.
Okay. You never got on board on the shore in Beirut?
No,
did you?
I was on the beach.
Okay. Now, we were part of a multinational coalition at that time. Do you remember interacting with any soldiers?
No, we didn't have any other interactions with the French or the Christian militias that were there. We had really no interaction with them.
All right. So it's basically you within the ship, right?
Right. We were just with the detachment that went ashore, and we were only ashore for a short time.
Okay. Do you remember any other American ships sailing with you?
I remember. I believe it was the USS Kidd was our escort. It was a SAM ship at the time. I think America was off the coast farther out for air cover, but we only saw. I think we saw the America once or twice, and we went off to do UNREP.
Okay. So in the aftermath of that bombing, did your NCO or commanding officer have anything to say about it? Like in
No.
terms of giving orders or what to
No.
do?
Nothing changed for us. At that point, we were standing deck gun duty, the 450 calibers, and we were on them 24/7, all the way up until April when we left.
Okay. Now, you were also on board when the ship actually opened fire, correct?
Yes.
And you were on Mount 55 during that time?
Actually, no, I wasn't in 55 that day.
Oh, okay.
No.
But you were on board when the ship opened fire.
Right.
You don't mind describing that?
That day, even in the morning, they let us know that we were going to general quarters at a certain time. You know, it was after morning chow. They knew we were going to the gun line. So what happened, we knew, but the amount of firing that went on that day was more than we expected. I was actually sitting in berthing below turret 3 through that day. The shots of this, anytime that turret fired, the mount fired, pretty much shook us. Pretty much it shakes the whole ship, but we're pretty close to it.
Okay. You were inside when the guns
We were
fired.
right outside. Mardat berthing is on the outside turret 3.
Okay, so you got to go outside and see the guns fire?
We got to go outside the deck. We were by Mount 55. We were just keeping everybody else off the decks.
Okay. So, other than feeling like the ship shake inside, what was it like outside when the guns fired?
That noise is deafening. The concussion off it is like unlike anything that you can ever feel. I've been close to 155s and 05s firing, and it's still nothing like it.
Now, did the 5-inch guns fire as well?
I don't know. I don't believe the 5-inch fired that day, but we did fire counter battery on other days. This was strictly a 16-inch day.
Okay, so when you say fire counter batteries,
Counter battery, the 5-inch, we were firing on short targets that were supposedly hostile enemy artillery, somebody within range. Because we were actually closer to shore. I mean, not that they could hurt this ship.
okay, but you were in the 5-inch gun mounts when this happened?
I was in a 5-inch gun mount on counter battery duty, but particular times I was in a mount we didn't fire. The mount did fire 22 rounds counter battery previous to me getting into the mount. We rotated crews through the mount.
Okay. So describe what it was like within the 5-inch gun mounts.
The 5-inch gun mount is cramped. My position was actually the sight and fuse setter, so I sat between the two guns in a very tight little space watching an old analog display, so to match the sight times and fuse times for the 5-inch.
Okay. So, what was your primary duty there? You said you sat by the analog computer?
My primary duty inside the gun mount was the sight and fuse setter.
Okay, so were you at the analog computer, or were you?
That's right. Yes, that's on the computer right in the middle of the mount.
Oh, okay. So you were able to see the calculations about
Yep, I could. There was a small screen, and there was 2 hand dials, rotated right, rotated left, sometimes at the same time. You had to match the dial for, as the Mark 34 computer was setting the fuses. I had to match the fuses, which would in turn match the set fuse setting and the rounds coming up from the lower handling room.
Okay, this mark you described, that is the one of the fire control directors.
Yes, the
of
fire
5-inch.
control directors.
All right, so that's getting information and you're matching it, correct?
And I'm matching that information.
Okay. Were you able to tell what kind of ammunition you were firing as well?
Usually the ammunition we were firing there was VT frag, variable timed, Beirut, but any other training time was basic the blue shells, BLMPs, blank loaded projectiles, or smokes, star shells.
Okay, so the time fuse, did you have to preset that before you shot it out?
Those were set coming up the tube.
Okay.
That's what my job actually does. I set the fuses. You can manually set the fuse with a wrench too.
Okay.
But we weren't doing it and anytime I was aboard, we never really did it that way.
Right. Now you couldn't see what you were shooting at, right?
No.
Did they tell you what you were shooting at though?
Generally you didn't hear it. The actual mount captain actually was getting the commands. But we never saw what we were shooting at. Even in training, we never saw it.
Now it was noisy in there, correct?
It's noisy in there.
Did you have any headsets?
Well, I actually had sound-powered phones on, so that kind of deafened the noise a little bit.
That's how you communicate with each other,
That's
correct?
how I communicated to the mount captain.
Okay. Now, it is often said that after a lot of firing, when you step outside, there'll be empty shell casings, right behind the mount.
Yes.
Yeah. You saw that?
Yes.
All right. How high was it?
How hot were they?
Well, how
the
high
most
were
we
they?
ever fired at one time, I think we fired in a competition, we fired 24 rounds in a minute.
Okay. Some people said they were knee-high piled.
We never fired that amount of rounds at that time.
Okay.
We fired 20, 30 rounds at any one given training time, so it wasn't that high. Probably during World War II in the Korea operations, doing anti-aircraft defense, the rounds were probably stacked as high as you could get them.
Okay. Now, were those shell casings recycled, reloaded?
They got recycled. Anytime we did, we pulled up your side at Seal Beach, we were sending stuff back.
Yeah.
That was just powder casings. Shells were just projectiles, nothing attached.
Now, speaking with other crew members, when the ship opened fire in Beirut, it felt like payback to the barracks bombing. Is that how you felt?
That's definitely payback.
Okay. Did they say like accurate hits, like actually mission accomplished? That's where the ship has been criticized, but others say no matter what, it saved more lives.
We were mission well done. It wasn't until years later that we've actually found out the targets that we were actually hitting, and I think some of them are still probably classified.
Oh, okay. But I remember a few Marines saying that as long as that ship was out there, these Islamic militants were going to mess with the Marines again.
That's correct. Yeah, we rearranged a few grid squares.
Okay.
My friends on the beach, I got a few pictures of them too, but they were always thankful that they could look out and see us. We're only a few miles off the coast, but that's enough to have the Shiites and the Jews quake in their boots.
Anything else you'd like to say during the ship's gunfire time at Beirut?
That sums it up. It was a well-worthy maneuver.
Okay.
It was worth every bit of it.
Did any ships around you open fire as well?
Not to my knowledge. The closest ship to us that I knew of was the USS Kidd, and that's strictly an air defense ship.
Okay. Now, when Bob Hope came along, you were not on board?
Who was that?
Bob Hope?
Bob Hope. Nope, I came on just after Bob Hope. I was aboard for Ann Julian, the Dallas Cowgirl cheerleaders. So I was just after the Bob Hope USO show.
Okay. Did you at least get to watch it?
I got to see the second USO show. Yep.
Okay. But you did get to see, you said it was Ann Julian?
Ann Julian and Dallas Cowgirls. Those, and Brooke Shields, I think those are the USO ones that we get to see.
Okay. That was on board the New Jersey, correct?
Yes, I was on the Fantail.
Okay. So how was that like?
Those were interesting shows.
Okay. How close were you to them?
I don't know, I got real close to a couple of cowgirls. It was a pretty good experience for someone who was 18 years old at the time.
All right. So when did you leave the battleship?
I left January 1986.
Okay. So, the captains on board. Who were the captains you served under?
The captain was Captain Wilkes, was the detachment commander when I was on.
Okay. How was he like?
Captain Wilkes was a tough Marine. First Marine officer I had to deal with. He was a tough captain.
Okay. So how about the ship captains?
Captain Milligan. Captain Milligan was a pretty easygoing, for a Navy captain. Anytime that I was his orderly, he was really friendly.
Okay. So how was orderly duty like?
Orderly duty was as boring as you could get, standing outside Captain's Hatch at parade rest for hours on end.
That was located just outside the captain's door?
That's correct.
So you were facing a hallway full of officer staterooms, correct?
Facing a hallway full of officer staterooms.
Oh, okay. Ever interacted with any of the officers other than the captain?
Not really. Not really much with the officers. They don't associate with, PFCs and Lance Corporals. Even, we're up there on a daily basis because we kept the captain's passageway clean. And we kept it shined.
So none of them came up to you to...
No.
Okay.
No interactions with the other naval officers.
All right. Did any of the captains ever push the button to call you in?
No, I've never had. Was never in inside for anything. My duties were always quite boring.
Okay. standing outside parade rests. And you were armed with a sidearm, correct?
Yeah, just a pistol.
All right. So, you talked about Captain Milligan. Anything else you had to say about him?
Again, I had very few interactions with the captain.
Okay. What about Captain Glenn?
Captain Glenn came aboard as the end of my tour, and again, friendly, no issues, but again, never had really any interactions with the captain.
All right. There weren't any admirals who were on board? Like whether as visiting?
There was some admirals came aboard, but I wasn't part of their details.
Okay, so they would have a separate orderly for that, right?
There'd be another. When the admirals come aboard, it'd be one of the NCOs. That would be their orderlies.
Okay. So you left New Jersey, and what was your next assignment?
I went to C Company 1-6. I left the ship with Lance Corporal Brown and Corporal Burquest. We all went to Camp Lejeune at the same time.
Okay. So what happened next?
We joined 1st Battalion 6 Marines. Myself and Corporal Burquest went to C Company, and Lance Corporal Brown went to B Company, I believe. But we still stayed pretty close.
Okay. So you were assigned to another ship, correct?
I've been on several ships over my career.
Okay. So any of those ships stand out? Like anything you remember?
Not really. All
Okay.
they are big taxis.
All right.
Barnstable County was a flat bottom LST, worst ride I've ever been on. The Raleigh, I was on for several months on a NATO cruise. Again, smaller. Saipan, much bigger. Had a little bit more room. Later on, was on the USS St. Louis on a Westpac, Philippines, Korea. And that was just a cargo ship. All these ships where they put Marines on, they're just our taxis, getting us from point A to point B.
Right. Your duties on board those ships were they the same?
Well, every time I was on them, not the same. When I was on Barnstable County and Raleigh and Saipan, I was in infantry companies. And when I was on the St. Louis, I was with the battalion headquarters staff. So the onboard duties are a little different.
All right. Any bases or ports of call that stand out during your career?
Philippines is always a great place to go. I had the ability to enjoy the Philippines as an E3, as an E4, as an E5. So I got to view it as a few different ranks and a few different ways of going through being irresponsible and enjoying every bit, and then being responsible for a lot. Favorite port of call, though, I actually was on this ship, Villefranche, France. It was probably one of my favorite ports of call.
So how was that like?
Villefranche was a beautiful coastal town. There was a old Crusaders castle on the ridge above town we climbed up and saw. But you sat between Monte Carlo and Nice. We did have an all-day drinking tour from every bar from Villefranche to Nice after we climbed the mountain. That was a fun day.
Okay. So
Drank my way across France.
okay. So besides any ports, any military bases that stand out, things that you remember from them?
Been in Camp Lejeune, Camp Pendleton. I did spend a bunch of time in MCS Kaneohe Bay with 2-3. Been to Okinawa. I've been to other bases like Subic Bay in the Philippines. Did a little bit of time there. Pohang, Korea. On the east side of the Med, I did go to Portsmouth, England. Did spend some time with the Royal Marines in Devon's Barracks. We did train with the Italian Marines, just away from Trieste, Italy. All good places.
Anything from any of them that stand out? Like anything you remember from Okinawa or Subic Bay?
Some of Subic Bay is a blur, but Subic Bay was fun for someone young. Yeah, at that time, we drank.
Okay.
Um,
So how are the Italian Marines like?
the Italians, they were pretty good. We both were working on with rubber boats, and we were doing rubber boat ops. Just a place called it was actually just east of I can't think of the name of the place now. Memory escapes me. I'm getting old. It's a place to the canals.
Place of the canals?
I can't think of the name of the place.
Okay. Well, speaking of canals, you ever went through the Panama Canal?
We've been to the Panama Canal.
Alright.
Got it.
Was it on this ship?
Yes, I've been through the canal on this ship.
Okay. So how was that like?
This ship barely fit through the canals. Between the fire hoses and scraping paint. That was the trip back through Gatun, the Gatun locks, and there is a video clip of that somewhere I'd always like to see. We were doing a freshwater washdown, and the Marine attachment, we had the fire hoses on the missile decks. That was our responsibility to clean, and some hairs along the lines, one of the deck divisions turned their hoses on us, and since the hose fight ensued, we climbed up and took their hoses. We took everybody's hoses that was within reach. And I do know good morning about that.
A hose fight on the battleship, correct?
The hose fight, and us taking hose from every deck division that was out there cleaning.
Huh. Did you ever get a chance to cross the equator?
I didn't cross the equator on this ship.
Okay. Did you cross the equator?
I crossed the equator on another ship.
Okay.
And I've been across the international date line. Been on Wake Island.
Now, were Marines participating in the shellback ceremony?
We did not participate.
You did not?
We didn't participate in that.
Okay. You've been to Venice, Italy?
Oh, Venice, yes.
Yeah. I thought that was where you were training with?
We were trained with the Italian Marines just east of Venice.
Oh, okay. So were you ever in the city of Venice?
We didn't get a chance to go to Venice. Our trip to Venice was canceled due to bad weather. We ended up in Trieste.
Okay. But you trained with Marines?
We did train
nearby.
with the Italians.
Okay.
And our Liberty port there was Trieste.
Okay. Just wondering, they spoke to you in English?
Some of them spoke some English, not all of them.
Okay. So you had interpreters, correct?
There was an interpreter, but mostly we did our thing, they did their thing.
Okay. Okay, so you left the Marines in 1995, correct?
1996.
1996?
Yeah, the early part of 1996 I left.
Okay, so did you participate in any of the operations during those years, like Desert Storm or?
I participated in Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Okay.
I was with headquarters and Service Company 2-3. I was in the S3. I was on the battalion staff.
Okay, so where were you located at this time?
We were just south of Al Jubail. We participated in the action in Jubail when the Iraqis came south, and then we moved west, and we attacked on the eastern side of the division, and we went up through the Albertine, Al Wafran oil fields, and we secured Kuwaiti International Airport.
Okay. So how's that engagement like? Anything you remember?
The tanks, our tanks, and the unit in front of us, and that unit escapes me right now. They had a sharp fight with Iraqi armor, and once they stopped, we did a passage of lines, and it was pretty quick once we got on the airfield. They fired, dropped the weapons, and ran. It was over as quick as it started.
So how was the feeling amongst the Marines within that conflict?
We wanted to continue. We couldn't see no reason why we had to stop. They ran, we should have kept going.
Right. So other than Iraq, you were still in the Marine Corps during the Somalia crisis?
I just left the Marine Corps when Somalia. I was a DoD contractor at the time.
Okay.
I worked for the Department of Defense.
All right. So you didn't participate in the Balkans either, correct?
I didn't participate in the Balkans, no. As a military contractor, I worked back in Saudi Arabia. I've worked in Central America, and then I switched companies, and then I went to Somalia, worked for a British company.
Okay. While you're in Desert Storm, did you ever see Wisconsin or Missouri engage?
Nope, was too far inland. They were up the coast, raising hate and discontent, keeping the beachheads full of Iraqis so we could go up the middle. So we never saw them.
All right. Okay. We're just about almost finishing up. So left the Marines in '96, and you resumed civilian life.
I resumed civilian life.
Okay. Anything you want to talk about transitioning from Marine Corps to civilian life?
I guess that's what being a DoD contractor did to help me kind of wean the military out of the system.
Okay.
But after 97, 98, I left being a contractor and I became a lineman. And I've been a lineman up till current.
Okay. Now, this is your first time back to the New Jersey since leaving, correct?
Actually, this is my 4th time aboard.
Fourth time? Okay. So when you came back to New Jersey as a museum, what was your initial reaction?
Let's see. Just the state of affairs of the ship. It just, it was there, but the first thing I saw was our Eagle Globe and Anchor was not on our mount anymore. Mount 55 was our mount. We had a big Eagle Globe and Anchor between the guns, and it was painted over. So that was the first thing I noticed. And then once I got on, I was like, here's the keys to the ship. Check in with me when you leave. And I just wandered around the ship for a few hours. Of course, I got inside the mount, and our internal artwork was all painted over. So, and the state of the mount was, not what it was like when we left. It was, even the upper handling room was in pretty sad shape. Those are the first things I noticed.
Anything else?
Well, at that time, Mardat berthing was in pretty sad shape too. I snuck down to Broadway and went through and got back into the berthings. The other places, the Master Arms Shack, they've locked it off and gutted it, and it became somebody's junk pile.
You think any has changed since your first visit and then your next visits?
Yeah, the ship's in a little better shape. Of course, the Eagle Globe and Anchor's not yet on Mount 55, even though I've asked for it to have it put on a few times. But I did notice they had our 50 cal mounts were put back up forward, so that was a good thing to see, since we spent many an hour on those. I haven't been back aft yet, so. Our berthing looks good now. The lights actually work, and it's actually reasonably clean. It's not piled in junk. So I think the ship's being a little better cared for.
Yeah, our volunteers do a good job. I do applaud them for that.
Yeah, I live too far away to come up.
Yeah, I understand. So, anything else you'd like to say? Whether legacy, being a Marine, or the time that you served from, I believe it was 84 board?
I was on board 84, 86.
84, 86, but all the way up to leaving the Marine Corps. Anything you'd like to say, add?
I'll do it again.
Okay. Because I'm thinking whoever could be watching or listening to this could be, years after even I'm gone. Future researchers, anybody who wants to learn about the United States military. Is there anything you'd like to leave or say to them?
No, our legacy is still the same. It's never changed.
Okay. All right. Well,